before they landed here, we were living the way our creator showed us how to live off of this land. And that is, we are one with the land. We are one with the animals, with the plants, with the water, with the mountains and the trees, and even the rocks and the insects. They all have a meaning to us. And we were more connected back then. We were closer to our creator. And that's how it was for millennia until 1492, when the people were lost and they came and bring so much death and destruction and disconnected us from our creator.
Welcome, Ember. Thank you so much for joining me today to discuss a very important subject for me, which is the situation of Native Americans in the US.
Mm-hmm.
It's a subject that is not talked about enough, in my opinion. So yeah, this is just a first episode in my podcast to discuss this subject, and it will be probably one of many episodes.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me and giving me this opportunity to talk about my people.
Yeah, well, your people are my people too, because I consider that I am always on the side of the oppressed, So
Exactly. Yes, I should.
Yeah,
say that, yes.
I feel I belong to so many communities around the world.
It does.
Yeah,
It really belongs to a lot of us.
Yeah, and
a lot more of us need to be fighting for it,
Yeah, absolutely, and we need all to be maybe more caring about what is happening to because like Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. So if we want to fight injustice everywhere, we should really fight it everywhere. So
I consider a lot of that hypocrisy.
Yeah, right.
Because you can't go around and say one thing here and then go somewhere else and do something totally different. So if we're going to do something, we have to do it together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll talk about that, because I'm sure you yourself and many people around you are organizing and fighting every day. And sometimes it's just the fact that you are here is a victory, right? Because it
is
like it's like I have, so I'm here, like I can talk about this, so this is already a victory, right?
Yes, it is, for sure. Just even just us being here on on this land today is a victory because we weren't supposed to be here.
Exactly.
Right, they had other plans for us, but so yes, it is a victory.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we can expand on this, and you will clarify a lot of stuff that people are not necessarily aware of.
Right.
Yeah, can you first talk about yourself and your people and Turtle Island? Can you explain to us what is Turtle Island?
Okay, yeah, sure. My name is Ember Spotted Out, and I'm from the Sichango Ayate, from the Rosebud Sioux tribe in South Dakota. Where our whole clan tribe is the Osente Shakoin, and we're the 7 council fires, and there's many tribes that fall under it. But I come from the Lakota people in South Dakota. And yeah, I was raised, my grandfather was a chief. He was the first legal Sundance chief. So I grew up in my culture, in our spirituality and everything through my grandparents and my parents. They were hardcore, right? They were hardcore activists for the American Indian. And they fought and they resisted, and that's what they taught me, to always be who you are. And we are Lakota people who are living in 2 worlds. We have our world, and then we have the white world that we are forced to live in. So yeah, I come from a long line of proud people who fought and fought to keep our spirituality and who we are alive, and that's how we learn things, our parents and grandparents showed us. So that's who I come from. And yeah. Turtle Island is our continent. That is what I heard my grandparents talk about, Turtle Island, when I was a little girl, and I never knew what that meant. My mother is the one who taught me and shared a lot of her knowledge and passed it down to me, because I cannot speak my Lakota language. That was passed down through the boarding schools, and my parents and grandparents did not want us speaking Lakota because they knew that we could get beat in school. So they raised us in the English. We only knew English. So there was that barrier between the grandparents and the grandchildren. My mother, she didn't speak Lakota, but she could understand it. So she would translate a lot of what was being said and stuff. So when I asked her about Turtle Island, she explained to me that that's what we call the continent on this side of the world, is Turtle Island, because that's where we all, we migrated it all over, all the natives indigenous on Turtle Island did that. We was up in Canada, down in Mexico, all over. So those 3 countries all the way up are considered Turtle Island. And, we consider ourselves all one people. The colonizers are the ones who came in and set up the borders and divided us. Now it's Canada, United States, and Mexico. And they divided us like that, but we're all still connected and living on Turtle Island. We are the people of Turtle Island, of this continent.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's such a good point that what I call the Western, I don't know if it's if it's a civilization. I call it the Western capitalist enterprise, because I don't know what your opinion is, but yeah, really, I mean, it's motivated by material stuff and material.
Yes, it is.
And greed.
The United States government is more of a business than a government.
Absolutely. Yeah, it comes down to that, really, when you analyze things a little bit beyond the surface. It's not about democracy or stuff like that. This is all a circus.
Right.
The way this Western capitalist enterprise is all about dividing people and looking for differences in order to create division and yeah, at some point to look at the elimination of the other. It's the production of otherness. They always look for something in order to point at some other, right? And then at some point they will try to exploit this other, and if they can exploit him or her or them, they will try to eliminate them. It's such a pattern in history. Centuries, not just in Turtle Island. Of course, you guys have been probably like the first mass victims of this capitalist enterprise, but it's exactly the same pattern everywhere. It's exactly the same pattern.
Yes.
So yeah, such a good point that they always look to divide people and to draw frontiers or borders between people, even between themselves. Really, that's why it's probably self-destructive. At least it's my.
That is exactly why it's self-destructive.
Yeah,
that's what I said. They didn't have a strong foundation to begin with. If you don't have that strong foundation, if you're going to start your foundation on lies and stealing, it is bound to crumble, and that's what is happening right now.
Well, it was based on greed. It seems to me, and yeah, it actually joins my next question, which was like, how would you describe life before your ancestors found Columbus lost at sea? Because of course he was looking for India and he got lost. And he ended up, fortunately, on Turtle Island. So yeah, can you tell us, what do you know about your ancestors' way of life, especially like the differences between how the
I'm sure there was battles and stuff between tribes and stuff like that, but it was never to the extent that the colonizers have gotten us to where we are now. Well, before they landed here, we were living the way our Creator showed us how to live off of this land. And that is, we are one with the land. We are one with the animals, with the plants, with the water, with the mountains and the trees, and even the rocks and the insects. They all have a meaning to us. And we were more connected back then. We were closer to our Creator when it was just us, because it was our medicine men and our chiefs and stuff who talked to our Creator, and our Creator would talk through our medicine men, and then the medicine men would relay it to the people, and that's how it was for millennia, for thousands and thousands of years. And we never had a problem with that until 1492, when the people were lost, and they came and bring so much death and destruction and disconnected us from our Creator. They put that they're material things, like you said, they're materialistic, all of that.
Great.
And they wanted us to live that way. So from the very get-go, it was just, I think there was harmony, because I'm sure it was always peaceful back then, but more in tune with nature and our Creator. Whereas now, like I said, we are disconnected from our spirituality so bad. A lot of natives are so disconnected and so far away from where we should be. So it changed a lot. So that's
Yeah. Yeah, what comes back sometimes as they like when people testify about how their lives changed with the arrival of the Western capitalist enterprise. It's like they brought chaos. They brought chaos, like total chaos, and nothing means anything anymore, and people are disconnected from their relationship with nature and who they are really, and they are just zombies, like virtual
right.
zombies moving around, but they don't have a purpose and they don't have a connection with their surrounding, and they don't know who they are, and they have zero spirituality. They have a religion certainly, but they have zero spirituality. Yeah, that's something that comes back
Right.
quite often. I saw earlier you posted a tweet about the four colors of your tribe. Can you explain a little bit of those four colors?
Yeah. That those four colors, those are sacred colors, and that's how we pray. We like I said, those four colors are for every direction, and there's a meaning behind every color. And when we go into ceremony and we pray and stuff, these four colors are always involved. We turn them into our prayer ties and prayer flags. And this is, like I said, this is how we pray. And the medicine man, when you have a ceremony, they will tell you whatever you're having a ceremony for, like for sickness, whatever it is. At the end of the ceremony, the medicine man will tell you that you have to make a certain amount of each color of these tobacco ties. And that's how that's how we pray to our creator. That's how he gets our prayers and stuff, is with these four colors. Our medicine will is these four colors, and it's the four directions: north, east, west, and south. And when those four colors and those four directions are always involved in our ceremonies. They're always there. They're always constant. We pray in every direction. That that just comes back to being connected again.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's very interesting because it's very close to how for instance how pre-colonial Africa was, well, what it was doing really. It was connected with its nature. Obviously, this is how things were before 1492, really, before the Western invasions. And yeah, it was also about the sun and the earth and the wind and the water, like these four elements. It's funny because in Africa it was like that. Although Africa is like 6,000 miles away from Turtle Island, but that's how people lived there too.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, they were connected with their nature. There was this importance of colors, or of also of the use of certain materials in everyday life, and now like the Western science is like rediscovering all of this stuff, right? And they realize that yeah, doing this is really good. And
right. Well, now before it wasn't okay to do all that stuff. Now that they're figuring that out, and now that they can capitalize on it and make money off it,
exactly,
that's what they'll do.
Yeah,
and that's what they're doing.
Yeah, it's always about making money. It's always about greed and accumulation, material accumulation of stuff.
They're very predictable. I mean, once you see the pattern, you cannot you cannot unsee it unless you don't want to see it. And
absolutely.
There is a lot of people who don't want to see it. They want they want to believe in them. They want to believe in this government, and they think that, well, what are you going to do without a democracy, RNG? Well, as Native Americans, we lived many millennia without a government.
Yeah.
So I don't get that either.
Well, I mean, people are mostly in denial, and it's much easier to drink the Kool-Aid because otherwise you're in this position where you're basically against a very powerful establishment, and this is
Right.
this is uncomfortable to many people. They don't see themselves go against the wave, like so they prefer to align with
Right.
whatever establishment is in power, even if
Yeah.
it makes no sense, and it's
Yeah.
more comfortable. And yeah, you don't create waves, and you keep your head low and so on, and
Yes.
hope for the
Yep.
best.
Yep. Be quiet. Yep.
Yeah,
Keep your
right.
mouth closed and your
Yeah.
head down.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's like that. You see that everywhere, really.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah. For instance, I work a lot in sustainable development, like practices, practices. Policies and how companies should approach certain issues like the environment and things like that. And yeah, now they are like reinventing the wheel, which was invented long ago by native people, by indigenous people, and
Mhm.
they bring up these like new findings as if it were the first time they were discovered,
Right.
and
Exactly. Like
they never
this,
say,
yeah.
oh crap, we have been wrong during all these centuries because we have been persecuting the people who were exactly on the right path, and we destroyed everything, and now we are rediscovering that they were on the right path and we were on the wrong path. No,
Yeah.
never say that. They never say. They present things as if it was their own finding.
Right.
Like
Right.
we shouldn't use too much water because water is a limited resource. It's like, are you kidding me? Really? Are you just realizing
Yeah.
the
Exactly.
resource?
Yeah. Yeah. With all
So
their oil wells all over the place.
yeah, I mean the West is pretty disgusting to me in
Right.
general, but the US took things so far. It's horrible. I mean
Yeah.
everything is polluted, and you have to pay for everything. People don't even have access to clear water. Wow, it's like, wow, where is this going?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Completely unsustainable, and they are thinking about going to Mars. Are you kidding me? Seriously? I mean, wow!
Yeah.
It's like give them a beautiful planet, and they will destroy it in just a few centuries, and they will
Right.
instead of self-reflecting and figuring out that they were on the wrong path and they should stop doing what they think about going to another planet to destroy
Right.
you.
Now they want to go to outer space. Yes.
Yeah. Seriously, I mean, there's this guy Elon Musk that people seem to be impressed by, and they look up to him, and so he's a billionaire, he's a multi-billionaire.
Right.
I don't know how multi-billionaire should inspire respect or awe or whatever, and yeah, he has this project of going to Mars, and at some point, if you give him enough time, he will do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like for them to leave tomorrow and not come back.
Well, if they could go and leave everybody else alone, that'd be fantastic. But I think that they will try to still destroy everything before they leave. That's the problem. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, just to say that it's a civilization or an enterprise which isn't capable of self-reflection and correcting its own mistakes. That's what I feel.
Right. Yeah, that's I always say that too, in my tweets and stuff with this government and stuff, and people speaking out up against it and everything. As Native Americans, we don't have that big of a voice. We're barely just now getting one.
Right.
Just now getting it. And the people who can help us, dismantle these systems and stuff like that is the white people.
Right.
That's who I'm trying to win over. That's who we need on our team.
Yeah.
People with those voices who who they can use it and somebody will listen to them, you know,
Right.
because just us as Native Americans saying things, we don't, yeah, they they'll laugh at us and, you know, and we'd be done, you know, they don't pay attention to us much, but yeah, now, you know, now the Native American population is growing and has grown over the last few years, you know.
All right.
So, so I think there's more of us with voices, and we are, like you said, we are organizing and trying to figure out what we need to do.
The winner is Marlon Brando in The Godfather.
Accepting the award for Marlon Brando and The Godfather, Miss Shasheen Littlefeather.
Hello, my name is Shasheen Littlefeather. I'm Apache, and I'm president of the National Native American Affirmative Image Committee. I'm representing Marlon Brando this evening, and he has asked me to tell you in a very long speech, which I cannot share with you presently because of time, but I will be glad to share with the press afterwards, that he very regretfully cannot accept this very generous award. And the reasons for this being are the treatment of American Indians today by the film industry, excuse me, and on television in movie reruns, and also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee. I beg at this time that I have not intruded upon this evening, and that we will, in the future, our hearts and our understandings will meet with love and generosity. Thank you on behalf of Marlon Brando.
Can you describe to us how you guys? I mean, because like everyone knows that the U.S. government has pushed Native Americans towards areas where they wouldn't bother the Western capitalist enterprise. Can you explain to us this phenomenon of is it reservations? They call that reservations.
Reservations, yes.
Right, reservations. Can you explain to us? Can you explain to us, yeah, this phenomenon and what are these reservations like? And I mean, are they like normal places where you can live and whatever?
No,
or yeah,
they're our own land. Let's start there.
yeah,
They're our own piece of land. We have our own government. We don't have to follow state and federal guidelines. We have tribal
yeah,
government and stuff like that. But on those, once we were put on these reservations, our ancestors were happy that we got a piece of land and that the United States government was going to leave us alone once we got on these lands.
yeah,
And so we had to develop them ourselves with our own government and our own housing and stuff like that, our own healthcare and everything. But you know, we liked it because, you know, like I said, it was our land, it was our community, our people from our tribes, just your tribe, you know, because every tribe has their own reservation. So they all have their own piece of land. So it, you know, when I was growing up on it, when I was young, you know, it was good just to have our people there, just us.
right,
And but there is such poverty and third world conditions on the reservations that a lot of us left the reservation. And then once you start doing that, then then you're disconnected from your people,
Yeah.
you know, not only the land, but now your people. So sometimes I don't think they're good places to have, but that's the only place our people can be ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, that's a place where we don't get judged, where we don't have to live by the white man's rules and have them beating down on us and stuff. You know, we have our schools and all of that and everything. But yeah, it is really third world conditions, and a lot of
Mhm.
the relatives who still live there are suffering.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it was. Yeah, it was certainly like the lesser of two evils. It's like,
it is.
yeah,
It is
being
right. It's, you know,
persecuted.
that's
Mm,
right. As American Indians, that is always has been our options,
yeah,
evil or the lesser of evil. You know, we didn't get
yeah,
choices. We
yeah,
don't get options. We didn't get freedom. You know, America is a big talk about how freedom, you know, it's free
right,
over here. Yeah,
right,
no, we don't get that. We don't get those freedoms and those privileges that Americans get. As American Indians, we are oppressed, and you know, and a lot of us do like our reservations because it is just us.
yeah.
You know, so yeah, it's definitely a double-edged sword for sure.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, it's certainly not a choice because this Western capitalist enterprise, it uses force, right? It doesn't use like negotiation, or they put you in a bad position, and then they tell you, oh, by the way, we can give you this piece of land, and you can go live there on your own with your own tools and so on, and
Right,
leave you alone. But it's not a solution because yeah, because you're like uprooted from your actual land, and
right,
this is a trauma in itself, right? And you cannot just relocate and go on like before. There's a
right.
trauma. There's a trauma that has happened. I mean,
Yeah,
people have been persecuted and killed, and
right,
yeah, and put in really yeah, just the fact that you are pushed outside of your like home territory.
right,
This
right.
is in itself a trauma, and yeah, and they
Mhm.
probably the official narrative is to say, oh, those Indians are incapable of taking care of themselves, and we gave them a land and they still can't.
Right,
And
right. Well, I'll tell
yeah,
you that that's what the government likes to do is, you know, they made all these treaties with us, all,
yeah,
you know, all kinds of treaties with us that they were going to provide us with free health care. They were going to provide us with all of this stuff.
right,
And then once we get on the reservation, we get none of that stuff.
right,
We
yeah,
get shitty health care. We get food subsidies that isn't
wow,
even good for the animals to eat, you know,
wow,
right?
right,
But the government has always played on these treaties with the
yeah,
American people. So the
exactly,
American the American people think that the government has stood by their treaties, and
right,
that we get our money, that all the resources that they stole from us, we've been compensated for that. You know, that we got land and we get money all the time. We don't get none of that. You know, they stole our land, they stole our resources, and they
right,
give us the bare minimum to survive on, and alcohol.
right,
And then they can turn around and say, well, see, look at, we gave them everything, and look, they're just drunk Indian. You
exactly,
know, that's what it always comes back down to, and everything. Well, you guys got, and even to this day, I hear white people say, well, you guys get checks. Is we do not
wow,
get, right.
wow,
We do
yeah,
not
it's
get money. We don't get any of that. You
wow,
know, we are still dealing with 5 generations of trauma. We
mhm,
still have battling addictions and everything.
yeah,
And you know, so you know, there's a lot of healing that needs to go on from everything that was put upon us, you
Yeah.
know. And like I said, the government has put out there to the world that we've gotten these things, that they have taken care of us, you know, but then they can turn around and then say, but look at what they did with it. They're all a bunch of alcoholics and drug addicts.
Right.
That's what they did with it, you know. So there's that misperception and that disinformation that the government and the American people still have about the American Indian.
I don't know if you agree. I would like to have your opinion on this, but it seems like one of the most significant features and powers of this capitalist enterprise, this Western capitalist enterprise, is its capacity to produce a narrative, to produce lies at such a big scale, and to convince white people, like the lower class white people, to convince them that you guys, Native Americans, are privileged, meaning you receive checks like that,
right,
and etc. Right?
Right.
It's a very powerful thing. They can achieve that, and it works seemingly, right?
Right.
So many whites believe that you guys are privileged, which is quite extraordinary thing to believe, right?
Yes.
So this is like it. How do you fight this kind of propaganda with simple resources? Because you can't compare your resources or your community's resources with the United States government's resources. How do you fight that really?
Yeah, you know, that goes back to maybe I didn't mention that, you know. Like I said, we don't have that big of a voice like the government does. The government has the media, they have television, they have all of that to spread their disinformation on that, on their lives and stuff. Who we rely on is white people, the good white people, because there is a lot of good white people out there who do support and believe in our causes and stuff. And so we have to use their voices to amplify ours and to get our word out there. Even my grandfather, the book that was written on my grandfather, you know, the first legal Sundance chief, it was written by a white person, you know, because if we wrote that book ourselves, it would never got published or
exactly
any of that the way it did with the white man who was the author of it, you know. So you know, that's how we amplify our voices, and how we get our word out there. You know, we try to educate as much people as we can wherever we go, in any conversation that I do anyway, you know. I try to dispel a lot of the disinformation and stuff. And you know, because American Indians are casinos, you know. Oh, you guys make a lot of money through casinos. No, we do not. You know, we do not make any money from those casinos or anything, you know. So there's a lot of that stuff that goes around out there like that. And you know, and it is up to just us to put that the truth and educate them, you know, because you know their history is so watered down and whitewashed of their version. You know, that's how they got away with these lies for so long. And how how it got carried away for that long is simple. Is because of the language barrier. There was a language barrier between the white people and my people. So the white people took advantage of that. And they have ever since have had that advantage of all of their laws, everything is in the English language by white men. You know, so and that goes back to my grandparents and parents wanting us children to only speak English, because
Yeah.
then we would be on the same playing field as them. Whereas my
Right.
parents and grandparents, they still had that language barrier. My grandparents are all fluent Lakota talkers,
Right.
so they still didn't understand a lot of things. And I think that's why there was that push there with my grandparents and stuff to make sure that we only spoke English and knew English,
Right.
so that so that we were able to see and learn things that they didn't get to learn from the language. And their education was from boarding schools and stuff,
Yeah.
so that language barrier was our big downfall. And that's how the whites were able to get away with what they did for so long. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad I have a better understanding of the English language and everything than what my parents and grandparents did.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good point. Good point. They of course, they used the language barrier against you, and they get to push any narrative forward, while you just can't, because you're like handicapped, because like the white majority doesn't understand your language.
Right.
So it means that the lies take the elevator, while the truth takes the stairs, right? I don't know if you know this expression.
No, I never heard that.
Yeah, well, they say it in French. I don't know if it's originally from the French language. Yeah, the lies take the elevator, while the truth takes the stairs. So it takes much longer for the truth to get to destination.
Right.
And yeah, that's what we see all over the place.
Right.
And it's normal that at some point the elders they push the young ones to
Right.
master the colonizers language, to
The language, exactly.
to fend for their rights, and to be able to communicate the political message that they need to and to fight the lies too. How is it that they didn't push you guys to both master the English language and still keep your Lakota language? Was it like difficult to do both, or what is the explanation in your opinion?
Well, when I was little, all I heard was, these kids are going to know English, because I think, like I said, back then they were worried about us getting beat in school.
Yeah.
They didn't want us to be beat in school, so they wanted us to make sure that we only spoke English. And I don't think they had the sense really of what they were doing back then, because now I look at it, I know some of the Lakota language because I grew up around it. So I do know some of it, but now that I'm older and I can understand and see it, it made our brain and our thinking more clearly without that second language clouding what we needed to see.
All right.
I always talk about our Lakota language is a way of life,
Right.
because that's how we live, is by our words and our actions and stuff. And I grew up spiritually. I grew up in our spirituality and our culture and everything. So I understand all of that Lakota way of life, but I just don't speak the language.
All right.
Right. So I do have, and even on my Facebook, I talk a lot about our fluent Lakota speakers. a lot of them are church Indian. So even now that language is it's really touchy from who you learn it from and where you learn it.
All right.
Right. So you can talk our language, but that does not mean that you are living a Lakota way of life, because
Right.
yeah, you're not the actions and the words have to go together.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, it makes sense if the parents were worried that their kids, because kids are kids, right? They don't necessarily remember that they shouldn't speak this language in this context. They're just kids, and
Right.
if the parents were afraid that the kids would be beaten up or whatever if they spoke the Lakota language, yeah. That they decided to not even really expose them to the language.
Right.
Yeah.
Because even hearing that as a little girl, even hearing, oh no, you guys, you have to speak English.
Right.
Is this? And then when I asked why, then that was the response was, because we don't want you beat in school.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
once you hear that response,
Mhm.
then you don't even question it anymore. You don't say,
Right.
oh, it's like, okay, all right, well, that's bad enough to, all right, well,
Yeah.
I'm not going to speak Lakota because the teachers will hit me in school.
Right. Absolutely.
So that that was a powerful statement from the get-go. When we
Yeah.
were little kids, we that's what we heard, and so that's what we associated it with. And then growing up, watching my parents be activists and stuff, and what they went through, just reinforced why they were saying what they were saying and what they were doing.
Yeah.
It all made sense with what they were telling me, and then their actions, because we're fighting for this, we're fighting for our spirituality, we're
Right.
fighting for our rights, and all of that. So it all made sense eventually. And then with the boarding schools, when those start coming out, it really made sense.
Mhm. Right. Exactly. Yeah. We'll talk about that, but yeah, it's important indeed. Yeah. So they decided to let go of the language and keep the spirituality, right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's one consequence of this this morbid enterprise.
Mhm.
They make you choose. They make you choose like basic elements of your culture, and you have to let go of them. I mean, it's not. This system didn't just use it with non-white peoples. I mean, I have friends. I have friends who are French, who are white French, and in France.
Mhm.
They used the same approach in that France over a century ago, it was comprised of many languages, many cultures, many languages, and there was this enterprise which was really about eliminating all languages but French. And people were ashamed into speaking their own language. For instance, I have friends who are from Brittany. Brittany is a region in France, in the west of France, and they have their own language and culture. And there was this enterprise, this project from the central government, which was about eliminating the Breton language. And they succeeded at some point, because I have friends. I'm in my 40s, so I'm relatively young. And these friends, yeah, they have my age, and they were shamed when they were young at school. They were shamed by the teachers when they spoke their language, the Breton language.
Right.
So it just tells you, and they are white, So this is like how this system works. It's about eliminating diversity. It's about eliminating cultures. It's about creating this homo economicus. The man and the woman who just work and make billionaires even more billionaires, right? And it's just about that with zero cultural. With zero cultural touch to it or diversity.
Right. Well, I always say that their culture is money.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what they do. Every here in the United States, the white culture, everything revolves around money. Their holidays.
Yeah.
Birthdays, anniversaries.
Exactly.
All this stuff that they made up has to do with money.
Exactly.
And
spending
that is their culture. And sometimes I say that the white people here in the United States are even more colonized than we are.
Oh, excellent point. Yeah, it's exactly what
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
because they got stripped of all their stuff. They're not French anymore. They're not Dutch.
Exactly.
They're not, Irish. They are now white people.
Yeah.
And you just go along with that. You got your whole identity taken away from you.
Right. They don't realize it because they don't remember. They don't know.
Right.
But it's exactly what I said. Whites are the most indoctrinated people of all, because they have they are dead. They are dead because culturally they have been genocided culturally, not physically, because this Western capitalist enterprise is about. One important piece of the narrative is like white supremacy. It's like promoting white genes, white gene pool. Yeah. Physically they are not harmed, but culturally they've been dead for a very long time, for centuries.
Right.
It's exactly what.
And you can tell that by the Trump supporters, people who support Trump. Because that's that shit that's been going on since 1492.
Right.
They just gotten away with it for so long that this is the way it is, and they're not going to bend because that's the way it is.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the way it is. That's how things have been presented to them, and it's a narrative which is. If you're a person who has been disconnected from nature and from their surroundings and from the notion of community and basic things like that, you will be very superficial and very influenceable. And you will buy into any narrative which tells you that you are superior. because you are superior because you are part of a special group, right? And it's enough. It's enough to buy support from those people because they are dead inside. They are dead. They've been dead for a very long time, for generations. Good point. And to go back to something you said earlier, our most important thing to do is to convince white people to join our cause. And this is also what I've heard from the indigenous of France. What we call the indigenous of France. It's not like the indigenous people of France. No, they are the descendants of immigrants who came from former French colonies. They call themselves the indigenous because it's like an ironic name they gave to themselves. But they are not like indigenous from the French territory. They are the descendants of the indigenous people of the colonies. But they call themselves the indigenous of France, les indigènes de France. That's how they call themselves, and that's exactly what they say from a strategic political point of view, they say to win our cause, we need to win white people over, and we need to explain to them our perspective, convince them that this system doesn't work for us and it doesn't work for them too. And yeah, it's pretty much what you're saying, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yes, yes, because yeah, that's the only way our voices will get amplified. That's the only way our voices will be heard by influential people who are in power and stuff. So you'll see a lot of our causes with white people running them.
Right.
Because if it was us running them, we would not get that much attention.
Yeah.
But if we have a white person who does have a voice and stuff like that, and white people supporting us, then we get amplified.
Right.
But if we just go out there and start talking, white people are not going to listen to us. So we need that white voice who will talk to other white people, because that's who white people are going to listen to.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
We need those voices.
Yeah, there's this bias, when a white person speaks, they're probably saying something important, but if a non-white person speaks, then it's probably non-important.
Yes, right.
It's a racial bias, and we have.
That's always what it is.
Exactly.
That's how they divided us here in America, is by race.
Yeah, exactly, and we have all been exposed to this propaganda. I mean, I grew up with US series, like Batman and Wonder Woman and things like that. And it's so full of racial cliches. It's horrible.
It is.
Yeah, when I've been watching that years later, I was like, oh my God, I've been exposed to this as a kid. It's horrible. And I'm glad that I'm not a white supremacist, even if I'm not white. Really, it's surprising.
And that goes back to their indoctrinating.
Yeah.
That's all what these systems are about, is indoctrinating.
Yeah.
From everything, including their education.
Oh yeah.
Because it's nothing but white people who are in control of all these systems. So of course it's going to be biased towards white.
It's a system, and it tries to be coherent in its lies, right? It tries to push lies which are more or less coherent. Of course, it's very difficult to push a coherent narrative which is based on lies, but they have so much resources behind it that to some extent it works, right? But
that's their history. Is if they're all lying, then it must be true.
Exactly.
If as long as they all stick to it, then they're okay. I think that's what they believe, because they sure will stick to those lies. They're gonna stick to their guns, and they're gonna
it's because they have made this narrative part of themselves, and if they question the narrative, it's like asking them to commit suicide. It's almost the same thing. For them, without the narrative, they are nothing, right? Because it's a narrative which tells them they are important people, they deserve the privileges they have. That's why they are better than the Indians or whatever other group. If you remove this from the equation, then they are nothing. They are absolutely nothing, and it's very sad. It's a sad. It is. Yeah, but
sometimes when I think about it too much, I feel bad for them, but it's but we need to wake up, though.
Yeah.
Because we can't go on. We can't go on living like this on their lies.
Yeah, exactly. It creates so many problems. Yeah, and yeah, I think we are at a very important moment in history. We'll get back to this, but yeah, indeed it can go on like that. Can you tell us a little bit about life in boarding schools for Indians, like for your parents, grandparents? How was life like, and what did the recent revelations regarding boarding schools? What did they like confirm or vindicate in what the elders have been saying for a while?
Well, we knew that boarding schools were bad. Both my parents went to them. But they did not talk about them. All they talked about was, you guys are going to talk English, and we don't want you going to boarding school. So those were the only two conversations that I always heard growing up. Now, I know that the boarding schools were bad because I would hear my mom talk about how she was constantly, had always had to be there at the schools. You know, those boarding schools, you had to live there 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. You can go home on the weekend.
Wow.
So, right. So they were constantly at those schools. Now, like I said, even today, the elders and the ones who did go to boarding schools, they are still scared to talk about what happened at those schools. They are scared and they are ashamed. So not hearing much what happened at these boarding schools other than what my parents said. And then once all this stuff started coming out about the boarding schools, then it made sense on why my parents didn't want to talk about boarding schools, because that was a traumatizing place for them. And my parents were very strong Lakota people. They were very prideful. They were who they were because they were Lakotas, not because of what happened to them at boarding schools. And they were not going to be labeled as victims of these boarding schools, even though both my parents were alcoholics, bad alcoholics. So the stuff came out, like their alcohol, their drinking, the divorce, the way they raised us and everything. It all made sense once these boarding school stories and what actually happened there came out. You know, and that's why we talk about healing. Healing is a big thing to us, because if we can start healing ourselves and look at the way our parents had to grow up and the way they survived and adapted so that we were safe and able to survive and adapt the way we did, has made a lot of sense. And that is why we need to heal, so our mothers and grandmothers can heal,
Right.
you know, what they went through. And so healing is, you know, a big thing for me. And I really want all my American Indian people to be on that healing journey, you know, so that they can heal themselves, so they can heal their mothers and their grandmothers. So, you know, I'm working on opening up 2 centers. One is going to be a cultural center, and the other one is going to be a healing center. And, you know, and I want my people to heal. We have a lot of healing to do. You know, our healing journeys just started because we're just finding out about all this stuff. You know, and it's still fresh. You know, every time they find more bodies at these schools, you know, it just opens up those wounds again.
Right.
So, you know, so like I said, it is just the beginning for us to understanding these boarding schools
Right.
and what they did to us. You know, even today, some of the natives don't think they need to heal. You know, they think that they're okay. And it saddens me because they're asleep like the white people who have been colonized.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
they're like robots or yeah, like you said, zombies. You know, they're just going around with these blinders on and believing what was indoctrinated into them.
Mhm.
You know, so those boarding schools have really done a number, not only on our parents and grandparents who survived them, but you know, on their grandchildren and our great grandchildren, because we didn't get to hear those stories, and I don't think we were ready to hear those stories of what
Right.
our parents and grandparents went through. You know, I don't think we were ready to hear them back. Now we are starting to get sobered and clean, and we're prepared to start dealing with them.
Yeah.
It all comes at a certain time. My daughter always tells me that it all happens for a reason, and the way it happened, I always say that our grandparents knew what they were doing when they raised us that way and showed us what they were showing us at that time.
Right.
And at that time it was our spirituality and who we were. So that's the way I grew up, was in our culture and in our spirituality. But I don't speak the language.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's how the boarding school has affected us and still affects us today.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, what you said is, yeah, it's very important on so many levels, because yeah, it makes sense that the elders didn't want to share the horror that have gone through, because yeah, they wanted to protect you, the kids, from
Right.
this reality, this harsh reality. And yeah, you some stuff that you can't tell to kids. You don't have the right to say it to kids, because
Right.
it's horrible. And there's also the fact that there's some things that you cannot put into words. It's just too horrible, and there's no words to properly carry what happened, right? So this is probably another reason why they didn't share what they went through.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, and there's yeah, and now it's coming to light, and maybe the fact that I mean, no one can hide it now, and everybody can see it, not just natives, not just you guys, that like the generation that came after. Now it's everybody around the world that has heard about this digging up of bodies of children that clearly killed in boarding schools. I mean, under the responsibility of the government, right, of the state. Right. So now everybody sees it. So yeah, this is probably part of healing. And yeah, you're right. I mean, you cannot move on if you don't heal from trauma. Trauma sticks you into a place, and you cannot move on from that place unless you heal first. And the healing takes time and effort and courage. And yeah, you're absolutely right. And so many people are in denial of the trauma they went through. They prefer to ignore it and pretend they have moved on, but they are actually stuck in some place. And it will come back to haunt them generally if they don't heal themselves properly. We start really by recognizing the trauma, right? That recognize that you have been victimized, right?
Right. Yeah. Because you know, if you can't, always say if you're, you know, sobered and clean. I didn't go to treatment or anything like that. I got sobered and clean by myself through my spirituality and everything. Because, you know, like I said, that's the way I grew up. So I am always in my spirituality. So once I got clean and sobered and my spirituality was intact, then I realized then I need to start healing from this stuff. You know, I did a lot of talking, and that's one thing Native Americans don't like to do, is we don't like to talk about what happened to us. And
Right.
you know, that kind of hindered us some, or you know, because we're a prideful people, very, very proud people.
Yeah.
And the boarding schools was all about shame. They shamed us and stuff. So
Yeah.
but you know, I say we can't just get sobered and clean. You know, just regular treatment is not going to help us. We have to go that extra step and start healing. You know, because without healing and our spirituality, then where are we? Then we're just sobered and clean, and you're then at risk for relapsing.
Yeah.
I think in my healing journey, my sobriety is non-negotiable. You know, I am in a place where I know that I won't relapse. I'm not gonna go back to drinking. I'm not gonna go back to drugs and stuff like that. So there's that extra step there that Native Americans have to take with healing. We can't just get sobered and clean. We have to heal.